Under the harsh fluorescence of Charlotte International Airport, winter's grip felt absolute fog swallowing headlights, breath clouding up glass, people trudging through that bone-cold gray like extras in a movie nobody asked to star in. I was leaning against a pillar at gate C12, suitcase handle tight in my hands, feeling like the only person left in the world who still believed in luck. I had one shot, a job interview in New York, maybe the last chance to crawl out from the mess the last 6 months had dumped on me. You know what I mean? Lost my teaching job when the school shut down. Then came the rejections, bills piling up, a voice on the other end of the phone to me, mom quietly doubting but trying to sound hopeful, both of us pretending we weren't afraid. If I don't try, I'll always wonder, I told her. Then I hung up before I could lose my nerve. The terminal's bland chorus of boarding calls and distant mutters got sliced to pieces by a child's scream, sudden and wild enough to make everyone freeze. I looked over. There he was, a dad with messy hair and the drained face of someone who hadn't slept, cradling a little girl who looked way too fragile for this world. She was pale as snow, shaking with tiny spasms, barely breathing. The guy pleaded with the gate agent, voice raw with panic. She needs a specialist in New York today. I'll pay triple. Please. But the answer was a polite brick walnut seat. No medical clearance, rules are rules. He just sagged, clutching that girl closer, like he might lose her right there on the floor. I stood frozen for a second, thinking about my own ticket, my own future. I'd waited months for that interview. Then I looked at the girl, and yeah, you guessed, everything else faded out. Some instincts you can't explain. I walked over, quiet, heart beating hard. Is she going to be okay? I asked, not really knowing what else to say. The dad turned to me, desperation plain in every line of his face. She has a severe neurological disorder. If we don't get to New York, she might not make it through the weekend. I tried everything. We drove all night just praying for a miracle. I looked down at my ticket, then back at him. I barely heard my own voice. I have a seat on that flight. You and your daughter need it more than I do. His eyes widened and believed me at first. Are you sure? Missing your flight, your chance, I shrugged, tried to sound braver than I felt. I was going for a job interview, but I can try again. Your daughter doesn't get another shot. There's this kind of silence that's both heavy and electric, and it settled around us right then. I handed the agent my boarding pass. She nodded, eyes bright with tears she tried to hide. The dad's voice broke as he tried to thank me, but I just pressed a little wooden apple keychain, a lucky charm I used to give my favorite students, into his daughter's hand. Keep it, I whispered, hoping she could even hear me. Her lips curled into a tiny smile, and that was enough. Before he left, the dad slipped his daughter's hospital bracelet into my hand, said, "It's just plastic, but you deserve all the good in this world." Yeah, that happened. And just like that, my Plammy lifeline was gone. I watched them disappear into the crowd, bracelet in my hand, the world moving on around me. By the time I made it to the city bus, the sky had cleared, but everything felt heavier. I rode home, staring out the window at a city that didn't care. Memories of my classroom washed over Mekked's laughter, chalk dust, sunlight on floors. I missed it so much it hurt. At my stop, I shuffled through cold and silence to my apartment. There was a letter on the kitchen table, me interview invitation from New York. I read it, then tore it in half. Sat down, knees to my chest, bracelet tight in my fist, feeling like I just lost everything and gained nothing but a strange sense of peace. No one saw. No one cared. Except maybe, somehow the universe did. 3 days crawled by. I ate the last slice of bread, drank lukewarm water out of habit, sat in a room more silent than ever. That hospital bracelet still sitting there felt heavier than anything. Then came a knock on the door. I almost didn't answer, but I did, and there he was, the dad, looking a little less frantic, holding daisies and a sealed envelope. I remembered your name from the ticket. I couldn't just let what you did go unanswered. He handed me the envelope, explaining he was the founder of Lighthouse Learning, a network of specialized schools just opened a campus right here in Charlotte. We need teachers, he said. Teachers who see kids, not scores. The kind who give everything, even when no one's looking. My voice barely came out. You wanted to work for you? I want you to teach. You didn't lose your spark, you just needed the right place for it to shine. I took the job, not because I felt ready, but because for the first time in months, I felt needed. My first day was rough kids locked in their own worlds. Not a single one met my gaze or answered when I called their name. But slowly something changed. Color games, story circles, music little moments, breakthroughs, tiny victories. Mia, a girl who screamed every morning, finally smiled at me. Another student hugged me, her mom cried. Mark, the dad, started showing up, helping in quiet ways. He didn't hover, just supported. One evening, he left a notebook on my desk, "Lead with kindness," printed on the cover. I was waiting for the right person, he said. Later, in front of the whole staff, he announced I'd be the new principal. I almost laughed, almost cried. After the meeting, Mark found me, said he'd never met anyone who led with heart the way I did. For once, I believed him. It all built up quietly, new purpose, new life. And then Linda, his daughter, came running into my office one morning, healthy and bright, that wooden Apple keychain swinging from her backpack. She hugged me so hard it made me laugh and cry at once. "You kept it?" I asked. She nodded. "It's my magic apple. Daddy says you gave me superpowers. I brush her hair back. You had those all along, kiddo." As the months passed, Mark and I got closer: nature walks, school projects, late-night talks. One day, he asked me to meet him in the library after school. There were paper lanterns, a trail of candles, and students holding signs that said, "Will you marry our principal?" Mark knelt with a velvet box, hands shaking but eyes steady. "You gave my daughter life. You gave my school hope. You gave me back my heart. Will you marry me?" I said yes. Of course I did. The wedding was small, in the school courtyard under the old oak, the aisle lined with handmade flowers and the sound of children's laughter floating on the evening air. Linda wore white and beamed as the proudest bridesmaid in the world. When I looked out over those face-me students, my family, I knew everything began with one act of kindness, a single seat surrendered, a single leap of faith. Now, every morning I sit at my desk, tea cooling beside me, watching kids play outside, kids who know they matter. Mark brings me coffee, Linda drops in for hugs, and sometimes when the sun cuts through just right, I see the light in this life I never planned but always hoped for. People ask if I regret giving up my chance that morning at the airport. I tell them, I didn't give up a future, I just traded it for the one I was meant to have. You ever wonder if kindness really changes anything? It does. It changed me, and it saved a life. And maybe, just maybe, it can change yours too. So tell me, what would you do standing at that gate? Would you risk everything for someone you just met? Drop a comment. Share your story. I want to hear about the day kindness rewrote your life.